All right, you can take it away, Tim. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about census data and data tools, kind of give you a background on the different types of census data and a background also on the different types of some of the different types of census data tools that we have. More precisely, I'm going to talk very briefly about the 2020 census and what data is available. And then I'm going to talk about our main survey, the American Community Survey, or ACS, and then just some guidance for data users on how to use the data from the ACS. And then briefly about our population estimates program, and then our economic census and our other economic programs. And then I'm going to go over some census data tools, and I'm actually going to demo our main data tool, data.census.gov, and then resources for learning more. So a lot of people don't know that we do more than 130 different surveys every year. We do demographic surveys. We have a lot of economic surveys, and some of our survey sponsors are there. You see that BLS, Justice Statistics, HUD, Health Statistics, Social Security Administration, just to name a few. The decennial census, we have basically, you can get age, sex, relationship, race, Hispanic origin, the number of people living in the housing unit, and housing tenure. Just basic demographic information from the 2020 census. And of course, everybody knows it's done every 10 years. It's 100% or complete data. It's a point in time, April 1st, 2020. And you can get this data that you see there down to the census block level. And decennial census, of course, establishes the official count. These are the 2020 census data products, and I just wanted to show you that if you look all the way down to, we have September 2024 this year, we have the supplemental demographic and housing characteristics file coming out, and then we still have the privacy protected microdata file, and that's to be determined. So there's still data coming out from the 2020 census. As I said before, we have the American Community Survey. It's our main survey. It's the nation's most current, reliable, and accessible data source for local statistics on critical planning topics, such as age, children, veterans, commuting, education, income, and employment. It does survey over 3.5 million addresses, and it's responsible for over $675 billion of federal government spending every year. It covers over 40 topics. It supports over 300 evidence-based federal government uses, and it produces 11 billion estimates each year. It's very important to know that it's released twice a year, every year. 1 year as 1 year estimates, those are for large populations of 65,000 or more, and as 5 year estimates, those are for basically every geography. This just shows you how the American Community Survey came about. So from 1790 to the 1930 census, we just sent one form to all households. Then starting in 1940, we started sending the long form. I believe it was like 1 in 6 households got the long form. Then in the late 90s, early 2000s, we started the American Community Survey up, but it was in a demonstration period. It was only in so many different cities across the United States. There was numerous things they wanted to try to examine. Namely, one of the things was the 2000 census was going on at the time, and one of the things they wanted to look at was how would the ACS be received during a decennial census time? Will people think that, I've already done it? Will the response rates get hurt or anything like that? But it worked out. So from 2005 to the present, the ACS produces estimates for all geographies. So as you know, the 2010 census and the 2020 census was a short form only because we have the ACS. How does the ACS differ from the census? The ACS produces sample estimates, whereas the census produces official counts. The ACS collects detailed social, economic, housing, and demographic characteristics, whereas the census just collects basic demographics. With the ACS, it produces population and housing characteristics. The census produces population and housing totals. The ACS, we get new data every year, twice a year. The census, we get new data every 10 years. The ACS data reflect a period of time, either 1 year or 5 years. The census reflect a point in time, April 1st, 2020. These are the data topics that you can get data from the ACS. So if you look at demographic characteristics, we have Hispanic origin, age. So we have any number of social characteristics as well. Like you could look at what's the educational attainment in your city, town, what languages people speak at home, how many people are disabled. And there's any number of housing characteristics as well. We got namely like 10-year, how many people own or rent their homes in your city or town, what are the home values like, how old are the homes. And then we have economic characteristics as well, such as what is the median household income like in your city, what occupations, what industries do people work in, what's poverty like, how long does it take people to get to work, and how do they get to work. This shows you our geographic hierarchy. So if you look from the nation all the way down to the block group level, that's where ACS data are available. At the census block level, that's just 2020 census data. So the block group up is where ACS is available. So if you think about like a census block, think about it like a block in your neighborhood. That's indicative of a census block. Then if you group some of those blocks together, like 3 or 4 of them, you get a block group. And if you take like 3 or 4 of those block groups, you get a census tract. And a census tract has an optimum of about 4,000 people. So you could very easy get any of those data topics that I just showed you, say for all census tracts in Davidson County, or all states in the United States, or all zip codes in the United States as well. This, as I told you, the ACS is released twice a year, every year, as 1-year estimates and 5-year estimates. The 1-year estimates are for 12 months of collected data, whereas the 5-year are for 60 months of collected data. Use the 1 year for areas of population of 65,000 or more. The 5-year are for all geographic areas, down to the block group level, down to basically like your sub neighborhood level. The 1 year, of course, has a smaller sample size than the 5-year. So the 1 year is less reliable than the 5-year because there's more data going into the 5-year. The 1 year are of course more current, and the 5-year are less current. So the 1 year is best used when analyzing large populations and you want current data. The 5-year are best used when you want more precise data or for analyzing small populations. So for example, if you were looking at like a Davidson County, then you could make your choice to whether you want to use the 1 year data or the 5-year. Do you want to be more current or do you want to be more precise? But if you look at like census tracts, some smaller counties, then they're below 65,000, you have to use the 5-year. You have no choice. This shows you the release schedule for the ACS. And I actually today, you see that the 1 year date, the 2023 ACS 1 year is released today. These are the various tables. And the 5-year will be released on December 12th, 2024. So typically the the 1 year and the 5 year are always basically released in September and December of each year. So when you use the ACS, you want to use the ACS for population characteristics, percents, means, medians, and rates. You don't want to use the ACS for population totals. So you'd use the decennial census or our population estimates programs for that. So for example, if somebody asks me, what's the population of Nashville, you would probably want to use the decennial census or population estimates for that rather than using the ACS, because you got to remember the ACS is a sample survey. It's a survey. You want to compare non-overlapping data sets. So you see there, I have the 2012 to 2016 5 year. I'm comparing that to the 2017 to the 2021. You don't want them to have years in common. And you always want to compare similar lengths of time. You want to compare a 1 year to a 1 year and a 5 year to a 5 year. And you want to do statistical testing when you compare estimates. So say you're comparing years, you don't want to just look at the estimate and decide if they're high or lower. You want to do a statistical test to see if the difference between the years is truly significant. And just more guidance for data users. The ACS, as I said, is for characteristics. The decennial census for official counts and basic demographics. And there are differences when you compare the decennial and the ACS and just about any other survey that we have. There's difference in universe, there's difference in question wording, there's difference in residency rules, reference periods also. So that affects the comparability of data sets. And on the ACS, you'll see terms like population alone or race in combination, or let's say like white in combination, white alone or in combination, or white alone or in any other combination. So you've got a lot of different terms, of which the ACS has a very good website for explaining every single subject in the survey. So we have neighborhood, community, and census are not census geographic terms. So a lot of times I get people wanting data for their neighborhood. Well, that's not a census geography. You could build it using block groups or tracts to get data for a neighborhood. Geographic boundaries may change over time. So just be aware, typically when dealing with census tracts can change, especially after every decennial census. As the population shifts, they may divide a tract. So just be aware that may happen. So if you're doing a comparison over like 20, 30 years, you may want to be aware if you're comparing tracts that the boundaries may change. So as I said before, the lowest level of geography on the decennial is the block. ACS goes down to the block group. And it's very important to know when to use the 1 or the 5 year estimates. And make sure you know that 1 year is for 65,000 or more, and 5 years are basically for all geographies. And then you have to know which data table or tool is best for whatever you're looking for. Here I just did the race and ethnicity data for Davidson County, Tennessee. And I just wanted to show you the difference between the three programs here. We have the 2020 census, the 2022 population estimate, and the 2022 ACS 1 year estimate. You would expect the 22 population estimate and the 22 ACS estimate to be different than the 2020 census just because of the two-year difference. So you could look at like how these numbers are different when you compare. If you look at white alone, well, the 2020 1 year estimate ACS says there's 401,000. whereas the population estimate puts it at 469,000. And actually, one thing to remember too are the population estimates actually go into build as weights for the ACS. So every year they're using the population estimates as weights for the ACS. And this is the ACS website. And there's a lot of really good things. You can go there from data.census.gov. And on the top, it says surveys and programs. And then you'll see the American Community Survey. And for instance, you can go right into data, some of the data tables, just by going on data. And you've got guidance for data users. That's pretty good because it'll bring you through every topic in the ACS, and it'll tell you if you can compare that data. So for instance, if you looked at like poverty and you clicked on poverty, it'll say you can compare poverty between the various ACS years. But if you're trying to compare poverty, let's say from Census 2000 to the ACS right now, it would say compare with caution. Just because the ACS gathers salary income data from the previous 12 months of the time of interview, whereas the census would gather income data from the 1999 calendar year. So they're not necessarily the same time periods. So that's why it'll say compare with caution. Other things you would click on, let's say like internet, broadband, that would say, if you try to go farther back, it would say you can't compare because it's a relatively new question on the ACS. And then lastly, I'd like to point out the technical documentation. That has the subject definitions. So every single subject in the ACS is explained in detail. So for something as simple as a household or family, you want to know what that is. Well, go into the subject definitions. It'll explain exactly what it is. We have many different table types, which I'll show you in a minute when I go into the data.census.gov, our main data tool. But a lot of the tables that you'll see will be these detailed tables. They start with a B, and they're the most detailed estimates on all topics. And then you'll see some subject tables. They start with an S. They break down whatever subject you're looking at by different things, by age, by race, by sex, by educational attainment. And then you've got down here, you got data profiles. Basically, there's 4 data profiles. They're very, very big tables. You've got your social data profile, your economic data profile, your housing data profile, and then there's a demographic data profile as well. So to show you an example, on the left side, I have a data profile. And this is just a very, very small part of the data profile. Like I said, this is the selected economic characteristics data profile, DP03. This is just the income part of it. As you can see, you're looking at like median household income in Davidson County, Tennessee at 72,000. The average or mean income is 106,000. And then if you wanted to dig deeper, you're looking at a data profile and you're thinking, okay, I want to look at income. I want to dig deeper in the income. So then you could pull a detailed table. This is B19019. It's median household income in the past 12 months by household size for Davidson. So then you could look at how as household size goes up until you reach about 4-person households. Median household income goes up, but then it starts going down when you get these bigger households. So now, kind of switching gears a little bit, I just wanted to show you or make you aware of population estimates. The population estimates, basically, they use the decennial census as a base. So they add births and they subtract deaths, which they get from birth and death certificates. Then they add migration, which they get from IRS and Medicare, and they come up with a population estimate. You can get these estimates all the way down to the county level by age, by sex, by race, and Hispanic origin. If you go down to the city, town, or other sub-county areas, they just give you total population. And then we also have national, state, and county for the number of housing units totals as well for population estimates. And these you can actually go to, there's only some of them in data.census.gov. They actually have their own web page. So if I go to census.gov under surveys and programs, population estimates right here. So just to show you, here's the population estimates homepage. And you go down and you got your population and housing units estimates tables. And then you've got city and town population totals, county population totals. Then you've got your county population by characteristics that'll break down by age, by race, by sex. And then you've got metropolitan, national, all the way down, and state, and even Puerto Rico as well. So those are the population estimates. Here, I'm showing you some population estimates for counties in Tennessee. Davidson's actually on the first row here. You can look at the population estimates from 2020 to 2023. And as I said, they use the census as a base. So you can see that this, for Davidson, for instance, it has lost probably 3,000 population from the census. And this gives you the rank, the state ranking of, and you see Davidson ranks second in population estimates for the state. And then you've got your annual change. And then you've got your cumulative change from 2020 to 2023. And then they rank your annual change and cumulative change as well. We also have, I just want to make you aware, we also have the economic census. The economic census is a census of 4 million businesses nationwide. It's done every 5 years. Every year that ends in a 7 or a 2. So we actually are still coming out with the 2022 economic census data. The economic census, you can get at the county level the number of establishments, their revenue, their payroll, and how many employees they have. And you can also get the non-employers. Those are sole proprietorships. You can get the number of establishments and their revenue as well. So for example, if you wanted to look at, let's say, grocery stores in Davidson County, you can get how many there are, what's their payroll, how many employees they have, and then you can get also, what's their revenue and how many grocery stores are just sole proprietorships and what's their revenue. And you can also get this down to the zip code level. And at the zip code level, you get the revenue basically and the number of establishments. So to show you, it's a long process to get because it's 4 million businesses nationwide. And so it takes a while to process that data. So actually it's still, some of the national data is out, but it's still being released. And this is an example down here. I'm just showing, this is on a national level, and I just did it down to the NAICS sector. I could have went down to the actual industry level. But if you look at like manufacturing, at the number of firms, the number of establishments, then you've got the revenue, annual payroll, first quarter payroll, and the number of employees. Along the same lines as the economic census, we also have an economic survey, a program that's called County Business Patterns. It's an annual series that provides sub-national economic data by industry. So at the county level and the zip code level, you can get the number of establishments, the number of employees, first quarter and annual payroll. It doesn't give revenue data. So you look here, I got Davidson County full service restaurants. This tells me there's 797 full service restaurants in Davidson County. Here's their payroll and their first quarter payroll, and they have 21,444 employees. Then you could look at the employment size of these establishments. You could see that, for example, most of them are in the 20 to 49 employees. You've got 22 more sizable ones at 100 to 249 employees. So that's county business patterns. We also have what's called non-employer statistics. Those are what I was talking about for sole proprietorships. Those are businesses with no employees. Businesses with no employees make up 75% of all businesses in the United States, but account for less than 4% of the revenue. So for complementary statistics on firms that have paid employees, you would use county business patterns. So you can see here, I've got some of the counties in Tennessee, and I've got full service restaurants, and you could see that for Cheatham County, there's 7 non-employer restaurants, and it accounts for $606,000 of revenue. So say I was researching a restaurant. I'm in the restaurant business, let's say, and you're researching a restaurant. You want to know where to locate your restaurant, where it would be, the best location. You would use county business patterns and use non-employer statistics together to get the big picture of what's going on in that county or that particular area. Is it already saturated with what your industry is? And how are they doing as far as sales and revenue? This is census.gov, and all our data tools are under data tools and apps. So I go to data and maps, data tools and apps, and they're basically in alphabetical order on, I think there are 2 pages of them. And these are some of the more common data tools: Quick Facts, My Congressional District, My Tribal Area, On the Map for Emergency Management, Census Business Builder, Census Flows Mapper, the API, and data.census.gov, our main data tool. Just to show you, here's Quick Facts. Quick Facts are very simple to use, and they're for cities or towns with a population of 5,000 or more. So basically, all you do is you go into Quick Facts, type in your city, county, town, or even a zip code, and it'll populate the table with that geography. So here I've got the Metropolitan Government Bounds, Tennessee, and this is only a small part of it. So we got population estimates up here. You've got age and sex, race and Hispanic origin, and then you've got population characteristics down to veterans. There's poverty. There's industries and occupations. It's data from any number of. A lot of it's from ACS. A lot of it from the census. There's data from different economic programs, the economic census, and you can also go in. You can actually click on any of these data items and then click chart, it'll make a chart for you of whatever data item you click on. Very simple to use. A grade school or a child could use it.
Can I ask a quick question? Can you go back to the previous? So I see that you've got, race and Hispanic origin, and there's white alone, and then at the bottom it's white alone, not Hispanic or Latino. What is the difference there? Can you explain that?
Yeah, just because that Hispanic Latino is not a race; it's an ethnicity.
Mhm.
So, um, a white person can be Hispanic or cannot be Hispanic, just as a black person can be Hispanic or not Hispanic. It's an ethnicity, so it's totally separate than race.
Can you perhaps, um, is there any way for you to discuss, and this could just wait for the next presentation in October, how that classification really eliminates a lot of the nuance in the Latinx communities? Is there any way to discuss that?
How it eliminates, what was that? How it eliminates
So there's nuance between, there's a lot more nuance in regards to like Hispanic or Latino descent. And so I'm just curious, since everybody's sort of blocked into, one kind of category, how does that affect how accurate that information is in terms of, demographics?
I'm not sure I'm getting that one, but um, 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 let me see.
Can I also build on it? Is because people are taking this and they're self-classifying as this thing, do you see that there's a lot of discrepancy in those areas because of how people might identify?
Well, I mean, that could open like, yeah. I mean, it they went and made the 2020 census along with and ACS went along with what the 2020 census did. They made it easier to self-identify on the 2020 census. And so we saw, if you look at the 2010 census and you compare race and Hispanic origin, you'll see very most of the time you'll see big differences because the 2020 census made it easier for people to self-identify as as Hispanic, as some other race or two or more races. You'll see, if you compare, you'll see, like, for example, I've gone to many different cities and showed them the 2010 data compared to the 2020 data, and there's like sometimes 150% increase in some of these racial categories, mainly some other race and the two or more races. And we also see a higher percentage of the Hispanic Latino because of how they changed the racial question on the census and on the ACS as well after the 2020 census. I mean, that's what I could say about that. So supposedly it's easier for people to self-identify. And that white alone, not Hispanic or Latino, if I take the total population and say of this case of like Nashville, subtract out the white alone, not Hispanic Latino, I would come up with a percent minority. So I hope that helps a little. We also have, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
We also have narrative profiles, and just wanted you to be aware of narrative profiles. They're on the ACS website, and they're good because they tell a story with data. And as I showed you, we have basically like 4 big data profiles, big tables. They use these data profiles and they put them in story form. And they're filled with charts and graphs. So you can get them from the nation down to the census tract level. And a lot of grant writers like to use these because you can take those charts and those graphs very simply out of those narrative profiles and use them for your own use. And it's very easy to use. You just get narrative profile, and then it'll ask you, what city, town, place, track you want. There's also Census Business Builder. That is basically, it's a mapping interface. It has all the ACS data. It has a lot of the economic census program and economic program data, as well as third-party data. I know it has quarterly census of employment and wage data in there. It has data from what people buy, different things like that. And it's very easy to use. You basically, you can compare, you can use the trends to chart, identify changes over time. You can compare your county to the other county, your city to another city. And basically what you do is you choose a variable, and it'll paint the map according to whatever variable you choose. And there's all the ACS in there and all the other data in there. You just choose a variable, it'll paint the map according to that variable. And you can also set a filter. So let's say, like this one, I'm looking at the number of establishments, business establishments. If I only wanted to see, I could set a filter. If I only wanted to see those cities that, let's say, have a median household income of over 60,000, I can set a filter, and it would gray out all the cities that don't meet that criteria. We have my congressional district. It's very simple to use. You just choose your state, choose your congressional district, and then you've got your main categories up here of people, workers, housing, socioeconomic, education, and businesses. Right now it's on socioeconomic. So you see, we're looking at the median household income of 86,000 for Congressional District 5 in Tennessee. There's also on the map, it's a web-based mapping and reporting application that shows where workers are employed and where they live. And you get reports on age, earnings, industry distributions, race, ethnicity, educational attainment, and sex. So what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at Nashville. There's basically 5 different analyses that you can do. This one is just a work profile analysis. It's showing me this blue thermal density overlay with these dots. These are all jobs. So you could actually see where the heavier jobs are. And you can actually click on in these bubbles. It'll tell you how many jobs are within that census block. The other analyses on here is I could show how many people come into Nashville to work from outside. I could show how many people live and work in Nashville. And I could show how many people leave, how many people that are residents of Nashville leave to go work elsewhere, and where they're going to work, and what cities they work in, what zip codes they work in. And I could tell, these people coming into work in Nashville, I could see where, down to the census tract level of where they're coming from. We have QWI Explorer. There's a bunch of different, I would say there's like 32 different indicators. Most of them are employment, turnover. There's some wage data in there as well. So here, for example, I'm on employment, beginning of a quarter employment. And if you don't understand any of these things, you can always click on the question mark, and it will tell you exactly what that term means. So if we're looking at employment in Tennessee, I could have went down to like a county level, but this is for all industries, and I'm looking at it by age. So you could look at any of these indicators by different things. So you can see that, for instance, up here, this yellow I think it's a 25 to 34, has the highest of the beginning of quarter employment count, whereas the 14 to 18-year-olds are the lowest. So I could have chose sex here, and it would break it down by male, female. You could choose average earnings, and then choose age or sex or race, and see how the earnings differ between the different sexes or races. And then we have our main data tool, data.census.gov. So here, I'll actually go into it. So this is data.census.gov. And basically, there are two ways to search for data. You have the quick start and the advanced search. So here's the quick start, and here's the advanced search. You'd use the quick start for easy, simple searches like poverty in Nashville, median income in Davidson, or let's say commuting in Oak Hill, Tennessee. Use the advanced search for more complex searches, such as those with multiple topics or multiple geographies. For example, if I wanted to look at the home ownership rate for all census tracts in Davidson County, I would use the advanced search. Or if I wanted to look at the median income for the Asian population in Nashville, then you'd have to use the advanced search. Now, to show you an example of the quick start, let's say I wanted data for income in Nashville. So I'm just going to type in income in Nashville, Tennessee. So here, it's best to use the type ahead overlay because you want to make sure you get the correct one. So here, I'm going to click on that.
Got a quick question. Is this AI generative searching?
It's based off the API. So I don't think so, but it's API based. We went from our old, which was American Fact Finder, to this years ago, and it's more along. I mean, this has more things you could do, but it's not AI based. It's as I said, it's API based. So I did income in Nashville. You see my two filters here. So that's what I wanted. And now I have my tables in the middle here. And you can see these first S1901, 02, 03, and then you've got, so these are subject tables. They start with an S. And as I told you, these subject tables, they break down whatever subject by age, by race, by sex, by education. So if you look at this one, income in the past 12 months, S1901, you can see that this one is broken down by households, families, married couple families, non-family households. And then you can go back to results and you scroll through. You can see that there's 434 tables corresponding to those two filters, income in Nashville. And finally, we get to the detail tables, which start with a B. And if you think of detail tables, there's probably going to be, let's say there's like 12 subject tables in this case. There's the rest of these tables are basically going to be all ACS detailed tables. So they're kind of like cross tabulation tables. If you think of like, this is the ratio of income to poverty, and then you've got, any number of different ones. I want to show you the beginning of this. Going back to the S1901. So when you're actually on a table, you can hold down your left mouse and highlight any cells you want, and then right click, and you can copy those particular cells if you didn't want to download the whole table. So you can copy with headers, or just copy what I chose, or you can export the entire table. So that's one neat feature that this does. You can also use the filters on top of the table. So for example, if I wanted to click on geos, I can bring up any geography that I want to compare to, in this case, to Nashville. And then you could turn on and off the margins of error if you don't want to see them. And then you can download as an Excel, a CSV, a zip, and this must be new. Oh, a citation. And also, if you go on more tools, you can also use the mapping function. So if I had numerous geographies here on this table, I would click map and it would make a map of whatever data item in this table I want. And I'll show you that in a second. So if you want to do a new search, you click on the census logo. So let's say I wanted to look at another example, the quick start. Let's say I want to look at, for whatever reason, 10-year in Nashville. Now I've got all my tables with 10-year in Nashville. And if I click on one of these tables to open it up, and like I said, you can, if you were interested in adding geographies to the table, just click on the geos, and then let's say in this case, I want to compare Nashville to Davidson. So I'm going to click on county, and then Tennessee, and then Davidson County. If I don't want to scroll, I could type it in up here, but it's right here. And see, now the table will populate itself with Davidson County. So you see there's Davidson, and then there's Nashville. So you can add to your heart's content other geographies. But you can also, and once you use this more, you can also, with the quick start, you can call out table abbreviations as well. So say I wanted to just look at the data profiles, which they start with a DP. I could type in, for instance, DPO, because there's DPO2, 03, 04, and 05. So if I leave off the last number, it acts kind of like a wild card. It'll pull them all up. So here's a data profile for social characteristics. You can see how big the table is. So anything you want to know social-wise, in this case, it's the United States, I can change that to whatever geography I want by the geography filter. So you see, you get relationships, marital status, fertility, grandparents as caregivers for their grandchildren, school enrollment, educational attainment, veterans, disability, residence 1 year ago, place of birth, citizenship status, when did they come to the United States, and where did they come from, what languages they speak at home, the different ancestries of people, all the way down to broadband. So as I said, if you remember one thing from this, remember that these data profiles are they're very big. There's 4 of them. They give you the big picture of what's going on in any kind of geography that you use them for. And if there's something on a data profile that you see that you want to dig deeper, pull a detailed table for it. one other thing I want to show you. One second. Now, to show you the advanced search, as I said, it's for more complex searches. Let's say I wanted to know the percent in poverty for all counties in Tennessee. So that's a collection of geography. So I have to use the advanced search. So it doesn't matter. You've got your filters here of geographies, topics, surveys, years, and codes. Codes are if you wanted to bring, these will bring up only economic data. So if you're looking at different businesses, industries, you could use codes. So I said I want all counties in Tennessee. So it doesn't matter if you do a topic first or a geography first. If it's not available, it won't bring it up. So I'm gonna do county, and I'm gonna tell it Tennessee. And then I'm gonna do all counties within Tennessee. And that'll go into my filters. So you see I have it here. Now I want to go down and get poverty in my topics. So I'm going to find income and poverty, and then poverty, and I'm going to check the box for poverty. And once I'm happy with my filters of poverty and all counties in Tennessee, I'll click on search. Then any number of these tables will have what I need in it, but I know this first one here, poverty status in the past 12 months, will give me the poverty rate. So I'm going to open up that table. Now, one main thing with this, and this is another thing, always remember, as I said, you have the 1 year and you have the 5-year estimates. Well, you look what's going on here. I've chose all counties in Tennessee, but look, I only have some. A lot of them are missing. And why is that? Because the data.census.gov went to the 1 year estimates by default. You just have to be aware and mindful when you're looking at a table, and if there's counties missing, it's because a lot of those counties are below 65,000, so they wouldn't show up using the 1 year estimates. So you simply change to the 5-year estimates. The latest 5-year estimates are the 2022s. So now you'll have every county in Tennessee. Now, if you wanted to look at that on a map, you can click on more tools and then map. And you can see here, this is the percent in poverty by county for Tennessee. And you can look, I think it's this one, Bledsoe has 26%, whereas this one here, I think it's Hancock. I don't know why it won't let me click on it. But you can see, as you can click on the counties and see the percent in poverty, and the darker blue are where there's heavier poverty. You can always, if you don't want that particular variable, you can always use the drop down and change the variable to whatever variable that's in that table that you want to see on the map. So if you wanted to see the white or black or African American alone in poverty, you could switch to that. So another example, let's say I wanted to know the total number of Hispanics or Latinos by census tract in Davidson County. So I'm going to use the advanced search. And then I'm going to take census tract, Tennessee. Then I want Davidson County. And I want all census tracts within Davidson County. So I'm going to check that box. And then next, I want the number of Hispanic Latinos with all census tracts in Davidson County. So I'm going to go down to topics. I'm going to open up race and ethnicity. And I'm going to click on Hispanic Latino. And then I'm just going to check the box for Hispanic or Latino. And then you can see here, the first table that came up is Hispanic Latino, not Hispanic Latino by race. That's from the decennial census. So another thing to look at when you're in data.census.gov, based on what you put in, your filters, it'll bring up the tables. In this case, it brought up one decennial census table and the rest are American Community Survey tables. So I could easily get the number of Hispanic Latinos per census tract from this 2020 census table. But if I wanted a more recent, I could use the ACS and then just, whoops, click on map. And then you've got, see, now in this case, I'm going to have to change the variable because I want to see the Hispanic Latino of any race. You got it broken down to Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, other, but I'm going to choose of any race. And you can see now where there's higher percentages of Hispanic Latinos per census tract. Namely here and down over here.
If somebody was coming in to use this and they wanted to know something about it, like a specific block group or a specific track, what would be a good way to look up that? So, without, I mean, I know that you can do this and you can sort of look in further, but if they just wanted to look specifically, what would be the best way to find out those numbers, like what the block group is or the tract?
The only other, I mean, if you use this, you'd have to look at what we were just looking at, and then you could pick out the census tracts that you want. Or, we have different data tools, mapping tools that will show you all the block groups or all the tracts or whatever other geography you're interested in. I always forget what that's called. It's on our geography website. But I typically used it. Let me see if I could bring it up. Maybe I'll bring it up. Let's see. Here. I don't. Well, let me show you real quick. I'll just finish this and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you wanted, and I don't know if this is that important to you guys, but if you wanted to know, just to show you how to use the economic filter here with codes, if you wanted to know how many, let's say grocery stores in this case, are in each zip code in Tennessee, you can go to industry codes and then I think it's retail trade. And then, where is it? Food and beverage. And then grocery stores. And then you check the box for grocery stores. And then you see here, we have what's called zip code tabulation area. Those are aerial representations of zip codes. For the most part, they align with the zip codes. If you click on that, that's only American Community Survey data. If you want economic data, you have to use zip codes. Where are they? Oh, should be up here. 5-digit zip code. So I'm going to tell it 5-digit zip code, Tennessee. And then all 5-digit zip codes within Tennessee. And you see, this is what I was talking about before. Here's county business patterns, where it'll give you the number of grocery stores per zip code. In some cases by employment class size as well. Let me go back to the results. These are all county business patterns, all older. Yeah. So it's about 2 o'clock. One last thing I want to show you too is you can get kind of fancy when you deal with geographies. So let's say you wanted the population of Goodlettsville, Tennessee, but you want it broken down to the part of Goodlettsville that's in Davidson County and the part in Sumner County. So to do that, you want to split a geography. You're going to have to go to all geographies because this is just some of the main ones. And then you've got a whole slew more of geographies here. But if you click on what's called summary levels, then you can get a lot more fancier, technical with the geographies. So if I just want the good parts of Goodlettsville in different counties, I'm going to choose state, place, county. And then I'm going to tell it Tennessee. I can get rural Tennessee, urban Tennessee if I wanted. But in this case, I just want Goodlettsville. Goodlettsville. And so in here, I've got the Davidson County part, and I've got the Sumner County part. And then I click on search. And any one of these tables will have what I need in it. But as you can see, there's 11,160 in the Goodletts part and the Davidson County part of it. And there's just 6,300 in the Sumner County part. So the point there is you could split geographies in different ways by using the summary levels. Let me go. I wish I could get this. Oh, okay, I could do that. Let me go to here real quick. I'm going to go to topics, geography. And this is the last I'll show you. And then you go to interactive maps. Then scroll all the way down in the interactive maps till you get to the bottom, and you'll see what's called Tiger Web. Then you click on Tiger Web applications. And then this first one here, Tiger Web. And then you basically zoom in on the area of interest. Sooner or later, it'll bring up the counties. So if I wanted to look at a particular county, let's say Davidson, and I could turn on certain things here. If I wanted to see the census tracts and blocks, I just simply click on that box. And there's the tracts and blocks, but I'm going to go in further. And I'm down to the block groups now, but you can turn off the block groups. And you could look at the census tracts this way, or you can click on identify, and then it'll tell you more information about the this identify button here. And you click on any one of the tracks, and it'll tell you. And then I use this a lot for people calling me and saying, hey, Tim, I'm looking for census tract 111, for instance. And I'll say, hey, well, looking at it, I see that 111 split into two different census tracts, because I can also go into this older tiger web and look at what that was for 2010, and look at the tracks now for 2024 to see if there was any changes. I think that's all. It's a little block here. Let's see. So just in closing, we have our data dissemination and training, our census.gov/academy. And that on that page, you can go bring our data expert to you. You can request their free data training. You can request our data gems. Those are short how-to videos. You can get them in your email. Usually it's their how to use a certain tool, or it tells you about different types of census data. You can get access to our courses. There's any number of recorded webinars that you could look at your own pace. You can also interact with our instructors via live webinars. You can go on census.gov/academy and sign up to attend those. And of course, you can contact us at census.askdata@census.gov. And thank you. Anybody have any? I thought I saw some questions.
No, I think we covered them all, but
Well, can I ask
go
something?
ahead.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, no.
First of all, this is great. There's so much. Thank you. It- Obviously, a lot of the data is self-reported from the ACS and from the decennial census, but it's just to understand the sources. A lot of this is being pulled in from IRS data, from Medicare. I mean, some of that business data, or is it all coming from some of the self-reported forms that the census sends out?
It's comes from the form that the person actually fills out. They're just coded. A lot of the data is coded after they get it.
But all the data on how many grocery stores are in Cheatham County, I mean, that's coming from
that's different. That's coming from the county business patterns and the economic census. Some of that may use administrative type data, and some of that also may business income tax records.
right.
So that's separate than the ACS. The ACS is just filling out at home or over the internet, whatever, and just getting it and us coding the responses into it.
But the data on census site can come from various sources.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a mixture of economic data, and there's the economic census, county business patterns, non-employer statistics, you name it. There's a lot in there, but even it goes back to the 2000 census, and it goes back to the 2010 ACS. Anything previous to that, if you want, like say 2009 ACS, 2008, you're going to have to use the API to get that out.
And how about more historical data going way back into the 20th or 19th centuries?
We have data throughout from all our censuses, from the 1791 to, although that'd be kind of limited, but to now.
But it's not going to be in that data site.
No, actually, if you wanted like old decennial census data, that's a little trickier to. We used to have PDFs of the census data for the old censuses on our website. I don't know if they're still. I believe they are still there. We do have something that we use, but I think they charge. It's called Social Explorer. So somebody right now called me up and say, "Hey, Tim," and I get this a lot. They want 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970. Sometimes I have to go on Social Explorer to get that data because, we really don't have that in any easy to access. But they, on that, they put it together in a nice, easy package to get. But I think if you ever use that, it'll give you like a week or so free but it is a paid site. There's other sites if you're ever interested in getting, other free sites getting old census data.
Great. Thank you very much.
This was really good. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Yes,
you're welcome.
thank you. Sincerely appreciate this. This has been a big help.
Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, there's no more questions. Any last questions?
Yeah, I do actually. So all the mapping tools that we saw like on the map in congressional district and things like that,
Yeah.
those are you can all download the data because my thought was you can reverse engineer things and pull the data and then get it for GIS mapping, right? So
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
those specialty like tools are downloadable data as well, right?
Yeah, a lot of them are. There's like I know especially for like on the map, you can take you can export and import into another. I've done that a couple times on different data tools where I'll take like we have on the map for emergency management, which actually is the same thing kind of as on the map, but it uses the boundaries of natural disasters, which we get from various government agencies. And within those boundaries of the natural disaster, it'll show you any kind of ACS data that you want. Like, we would have the boundaries of a hurricane, um, the path of the hurricane. And then we could pull what's in that path. Are there a lot of mobile homes? Are there a lot of poverty? Are there a lot of handicapped people? Different things like that. And that one I could actually take out and I can export the geography out and import it into the regular on the map and look at, how many jobs, how many people are going in there to work. We could just not only look at what's there in the day, but, it like in the path of a hurricane will be a heck of a lot difference at night than it is in maybe in the daytime when people are working in a particular city or stuff like that.
That's cool. Thank you so much.
Mhm. And
So,
that,
oh, just a really quick reminder again, is quick facts the statistical publication. Now I can't remember the name of it. I looked it up. That stopped existing in 2012. What was it?
stopped existing in 20.
You know that the hardbound reference book that we used to use for census or statistical data and I'm just
It's
dating
not the
myself.
statistical abstracts, was it?
Yes, statistical abstracts.
I haven't
Thank
seen one of those in a while.
Yeah.
You might be right. I think the one I have is probably like 2012, 11 or something like that.
So that's quick facts now, or
No,
more than that?
I don't know why they. No, I mean that's been around for a long time. Quick Facts I think came around later, but um, there's a lot more. That particular one you're talking about that has a way more stuff than Quick Facts I think in there.
Yeah, you used to have international, a little bit of international data too. Yeah, that
No,
was my favorite. I was so hurt when they stopped doing those. That was a great publication.
yeah, I know. I actually had a lot of them laying around somewhere, but and I actually have they closed down the library in Philadelphia, the census library that they had in the office there, and I got all the old 1940, 1950, 1960 census of Ohio publications, and so I access all the data that way in book, but they're gigantic books.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. I was just curious. I was just curious as to how that information transferred, but it didn't. All right.
If I would
But
have known, if I would
I
have known
super appreciate
years ago, I would have gave you all the Tennessee books. Because he tried to give them to some libraries that I think some libraries did take them.
no. Well, if you do come across any, we're here. All right. Thank you so I appreciate this so much. Thank you. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
taking
anytime.
cobwebs off, so I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep, anytime.
Thanks so much, Tim. We'll
Okay.
see you next
Yep.
month.
Okay. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.